What's going on, everybody? Welcome to page 1075. This is a YouTube channel where I will be reviewing books, doing hot takes on authors, and things of that nature. This is going to be the first video that I put out onto YouTube. I will also be looking at starting a blog here in the future. So with that being said, today we're going to review Armada by Ernest Cline. Personally, it's one of my favorite intro to sci-fi novels. It's written very well. It's very fluent. It moves extremely well. The writing is done very well. Overall, I would say it's a very good book. There are one big issue that I have with it, and that's going to be its predictability. But before we get into that, let's start off with the review. So Armada, like I said, it's one of the better beginner sci-fi fantasy novels. It's written by Ernest Cline, who, if you don't know, also wrote Ready Player One as well as Ready Player Two. The book takes place in a similar fashion as Ready Player One, where the main storyline revolves around an augmented reality type of video game system. The main character's name is Zach Lightman, who's kind of a lovable but broken video game nerd, and his life really revolves around his dad and his love for the video game Armada. So when it comes to his father, there's a few things you need to know off the bat. One, his father passed away in a work accident when he was a kid, and he never really got the chance to meet him, but his father left behind a bunch of journals with cryptid messages that Zach has, really spent his life trying to figure out. And this is where his mom is very passive and really just wants Zach to move on. So, he hides all the journals and everything in the attic above his room, and he'll go up there and read through them and try and figure out what these messages mean, what they're for. But he never really finds success in cracking the messages. The other thing that his life revolves around is going to be the augmented reality game. And so as far as the game goes, it's very similar to Ready Player One, where you put on a headset, you have flight controls in this situation because the game revolves around being a pilot for the Earth Defense Alliance, or EDA. And so with that being said, basically Zach's life is, he goes to school like a regular teenager, and then he goes to work where, guess what? He works at a video game store where they sell flight controls, headsets, monitors, all this stuff for the game. So Zach has a really good working relationship with his boss, who allows him to come in and basically play video games because their foot traffic isn't that high. There's some other stuff revolving around Zach's boss, but we'll get there in a minute. So basically, Zach's life revolves around this game, and he is one of the best players in the world. And there's, prizes such as legendary planes, more strategic control. Zach is a high-ranking officer within the game and basically is allowed to make the strategy for missions and control different planes and things of that nature. So he's very well known in the Armada game by other players as well as his friends. So one night, Zach and his friends are trying to complete a mission that they have not been able to complete. They've played it for 2 weeks, and they're not able to just finish it because it requires pretty much everybody within the EDA dying to accomplish the mission, but they are trying to do it without anybody dying or minimalizing the deaths between him, his friends, and the other players. So obviously they try it again one night and they can't get it, and Zach starts noticing some differences in the game that make it seem more realistic, such as locations, landmarks, things of that nature. So the next day, Zach goes to school. He's sitting in class and sees an EDA ship, or what he thought to be an EDA ship, flying over, and just thinks, oh no, I'm just tired. I stayed up all night gaming. I must be seeing things. Maybe I should take a break from the game. And then a few moments later, the EDA ship again appears in the sky and actually lands in his high school's parking lot. And obviously, all the kids go running out and they want to see what's going on. And from the ship emerges Zach's boss, who is an officer in the EDA. And he comes out of the ship, grabs Zach, says, "Hey, we got some things we need to take care of. Let's go up to space and we'll get you tuned in along the way." So once Zach gets on the ship, he learns that he is being enlisted as a EDA flight officer and he's about to go to a quote-unquote boot camp. So when Zach gets to his station, they give them intro classes about what to expect, why they're here, and looking around, he realizes that all the people that are there are the other top players in the game. And it's the top 10 players, and they're all there, they all know each other, they've all played against each other, and they are trying to figure it out together along the way. And from there, obviously, it's very predictable. Zach goes on to defend Earth, keep his mom safe, and he finds out along the way that his father is still alive. So that's mainly the summary with as minimal spoilers as possible. So I'd like to get into kind of the good things that the book does, and we'll go from there. So first off, like I said at the beginning of the video, is the pace of the book. When I first got it, I was expecting it to be good like Ready Player One, but I wasn't expecting it to be an absolute page turner where I was reading it one night and 4 hours later was finished with it. It kept me very engaged because the book is very fast paced. It reads super fluently. There's not a lot of crazy complex sentences or anything like that. It moves really well. And it's not a book where you have to reread a page to figure anything out. Everything ended up coming together very well, and it made it very hard to put the book down. So the second good thing is the plot. And now, so the plot for me is going to be both good and bad. I'd say about the first half of the book, the plot was very strong. You weren't really able to predict things that were coming down the pipeline. And as soon as Zach is informed that his father is alive, you can kind of piece together the last little bit of the book as you're reading through it. And there's a few things that come along that are also predictable, but might not have been so easily guessed. So the third really good thing that I liked about this book was the character development within the novel. So throughout the novel, Zach is just kind of pushed to the side as this geeky video game kid. You know, he has his friends at school and he has a job, but that's about it. And normally when a character is put in a situation such as Zach, where he's taken to space, made a lieutenant, and is now on the front lines of flying these fighters and trying to defend Earth, normally what you'll see is that they just handle it with a seamless transition. There's no hesitation or anything like that. With Armada, however, this is not the case. Zach does have a seamless transition, but he shows his vulnerability and his weakness many times throughout the book, making it more realistic and more relatable. So I do have to give a lot of credit to Ernest Cline by doing that, because to me that seems like something that authors struggle with, is trying to make characters vulnerable, have a good transition, but not, drag it out or make it a long-lasting thing. So I credit Ernest Cline very much there, because he was able to do that very well, and it made a lot of sense, and it didn't come off as forced, but it also didn't come off as Zach is just this Superman, invincible, nothing's going to happen to me. So the last really good thing that I enjoyed that this novel did well is the romance, or I guess the lack thereof. So once Zach gets into his boot camp, he meets a girl who is another one of the top 10 gamers who he thought was a boy. Obviously, she's not. They hit it off immediately and start flirting. And they get to their first station together, but she is a mech pilot, so she's on the ground, not in the air. So she operates on a completely different basis and kind of in a different area than he does. So they flirt and they talk, and Zach is flown to a different duty station, if you will, and she's left behind. From there, it's when they get to see each other, it's a quick hug, maybe a kiss, and then they typically just move on from each other, which I applaud Ernest Cline for doing, because normally what you'll see when these romance sections come along is just the overused words like babe or baby or things of that nature, and he doesn't do that. He builds a relationship to what they can handle and what's pretty much acceptable in the situation. So now the one real bad thing that I had with the book was the plot itself. Because, like I said, once you find out that Zach's father is alive and once he meets this girl, you can pretty much assume that four things are almost guaranteed to happen. One being the start of this relationship with a girl. Two, he's most likely going to meet his dad. Third, he'll rebuild his relationship with his dad and they'll just live happily ever on. And four, that he's going to save the planet right with his dad right by his side. Um, as far as how this impacts the novel as a whole, I really don't see it as a huge impact. It was just the one thing that I didn't like about it was how predictable the book was. So, as I said in the beginning of the video, overall, I think this book was a great beginner to sci-fi fantasy because it's such a quick page turner. It keeps you engaged the whole time, and I really think anybody that's trying to maybe bridge into the genre should pick up a copy of this book and read it, because it's not boring. You're not going to be bored while reading this book. There is always something going on. There's always something that you can pick up as important for later. Um, it's not by any means a bad book in any sense of the word. So I definitely think this is a great book if you want to pick it up and read it. And let me know what your thoughts are.